Bienvenidos a este espacio en donde platicamos con sus estrellas favoritas. Esta vez quiero compartir con ustedes una entrevista con Kessler y Sam Fogarino, dos de los integrantes de Interpol. La banda indie neoyorquina está presentando su nuevo álbum, un trabajo titulado The Other Side of Make Believe. Es su primer disco de estudio en 4 años y tienen mucho que contar acerca de esta producción. Esto fue lo que nos dijeron.
It was the first time that we weren't together in a room, you know, in a dingy New York basement somewhere. I had recorded remotely, written songs remotely with other projects before, so it was no thing to me. But there was a kind of a concern, like I could do this, but we all have to be on board or else it won't work. If there's any resistance, because there's no recourse, but it worked.
Yeah, we're really pleased and very passionate about our latest record, The Other Side of Make Believe, and it's something that was, as I was mentioning, it was a wonderful project to have in the works while we were going through this difficult, during the lockdowns, the pandemic. And then when we were finally able to get together, to actually be in the same house, we rented a house in upstate New York, moved the furniture out of the way and played music in March 2021. And you didn't know if you'd get that opportunity, you know, because it wasn't, you know, there's so many travel restrictions and so forth. So just being in the same room felt very, it felt like there was like an urgency to get, to A, we need to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time, but also B, you're like, I really, you want to put everything you have into this project because it's something emotional, something beautiful, something that you're really deeply invested in.
I think, outside of what you can hear, like the motivation was very high because, all right, the world is in this position, but we're still being asked to make a record. So there's nothing to complain about. And it kind of affects it in that way where it's almost like there's a certain sense of humility that you gain from that. And you could hear that it turned out good, like you can almost hear it. Like these were the demos that it was excited for itself, that it could work. And then, the final thing was that when we did get together in person, then it was proven. So we still had that element at the last minute, to kind of really get our hands on these songs before we entered the studio. So it was really not to measure the demos, but it was really to rehearse the songs, If the demos weren't on point, then we were in big trouble. The idea to do the 2 videos, I think, came from Van Alpert, the man who directed the video, and we did decide early on that only Paul was going to do this, because the whole band couldn't be there, and it's like, I think it's okay for just the singer to do a video. But otherwise, it should be all band or just Paul or none of us. So that worked out great. And then when you see the concept that Van came up with, it only made sense for it to be Paul. So it kind of starts out where it's kind of like a modern West Side Story in a way with all this choreographed dancing. And so it's a love story. There's the forbidden couple. And not all is what you see though. And they're both very handsome people. Waded through shame for this. So the next video, and you see it's a continuation where they left the fray of all that madness and Paul's still trailing them though. And all of a sudden, you see her just get in Paul's police car, which is unmarked. And he's like, oh, you sleazebucket, what are you doing? And it feels that way. But then you realize when all is not what it seems, like she's just not the woman that the poor guy wants her to be. And there is a backstory. Something changed now.
You know, since the pandemic, you know, you can make a plan, but you don't know what next week's going to hold, and many plans have changed over the course of the past almost 3 years. So I think it made me very appreciative of like daily life and try to be as present as possible with each moment. And then for us, it presented the challenge of just how we're going to write our music, because the three of us were in different countries. So it presented us with a challenge of how we're going to go about this. But at the same time, once we found a way to do so by me sending songs around digitally to my bandmates and them adding on parts and then sending them back and then talking about it, you realized it was a wonderful thing to have, like this thing that you're working on building, like writing a piece of music during such a uncertain and challenging time. It was beautiful to have this thing that you're creating that was like a compass through the storm, you know. We have wonderful fans all over the world, but it's like such a beautiful relationship that we have with them. They're like the most passionate, like really present when you're playing a concert. They're like they're so present in the moment, but less just from like a fan perspective, but from a human perspective. They're just there really trying to get as connected to the music as possible. And like, it's a really beautiful experience as a performer, but just as a human.
Your audiences are great by virtue. They clap. You're fucking paying your way through life. You know, you got to respect that. But like we all know, some just have it on a different plane. You know, it all follows in line. You know, it's like, if it's Latin, that's all you need to know. Hi, I'm Stan from Interpol, and I want to say hello to Canal Claro.
Ojalá que esta plática con Interpol les haya gustado. No olviden suscribirse a nuestro canal de YouTube para que vuelvan a disfrutar esta entrevista y descubran muchas más. Soy Gaby Graf y nos vemos muy pronto.
Nobody's coming.